All right, we're rolling. All right, so welcome to another Buzz Slayers interview. Today we were with Sean Grinsell. Is that how you pronounce it, Grinsell?
That is correct, yeah.
All right, Sean Grinsell, and you know, we're pretty familiar with some of your stuff in terms of your releasing your material that you've released previously. The R's for Redemption record is, your main kind of opus. From I think it was 2022 or 2021 you released it. And was that record I have a ton of questions, so I'll try and like tone it down. But one of my big questions about that was really like, what triggered that? Was that like a lockdown thing, and you were just like in lockdown mode, and you were just like, yo, man, I'm gonna just track all this stuff out and do it? Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I remember, you're right. The R's for Redemption was released. I'll always remember this date. It'll always be such a special date to me. August 20th, 2021. That was the date that EP went live on Spotify, Apple Music. But that was just sort of a love project, exactly what you're saying, to the times that we were all in lockdown. There was a lot of time to explore some new hobbies, some new ideas. But I actually started the process of songwriting a little bit more seriously when I was in my first year of college. I started college in fall of 2019. So I got one normal semester of college before we all got kicked off campus in spring of 2020. Then lockdown started.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Yeah. Okay.
I joke around with my parents all the time. I was like, yeah, I got one normal semester of college, and then by spring of 2020, I was moving out all of my dorm stuff in garbage bags in my dad's van in the middle of the night, ready to go home again. But during that
That's
time,
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's also going to be a time I'm never going to forget. During that time, though, in fall of 2019, I kind of started to get some kind of melodic hooks. I was one of my majors at my university was in music performance. So I was taking a lot of theory classes. So I was learning a lot of different techniques, and I wanted to try and put those things to practice. So I started writing songs just for like my own amusement, just to see the kind of things that I can do for it. And it quickly snowballed into something that I really, really loved to do.
Yeah.
So I started dedicating a lot of time to that. What I essentially did was, once lockdown started, there was a lot of time to dedicate to that. So I pretty much spent, I think it was the summer of 2020 was when I would say that I actually fully finalized all of the songs into like their specific drafts. And then I kind of spent some more of that time revising. And then I reached out to a mastering engineer to provide feedback and then work on those. And then getting all the marketing stuff. I'm sure you guys are well aware of how tedious of a process that can be sometimes, or how time consuming that can be as well. Having to reach out to all of these different spots to try and get these specific marketing things underway. So, but when the time August 20th, 2021 came, I was so relieved. I was like, oh, it's done. I can finally just put it out there. I can have it be done. I can look back at it with pride and keep moving forward with other material. So that's kind of where that started. And it was something I really enjoyed to do.
It's a brilliant record, man. And
thank you.
My other, I mean, it's like the way it's very progressive, and it's got like to me, it's a lot of the songs are kind of alive and excitable, because there's a lot of kind of range of excitable emotion, and
yes,
there's ranges of intensities and energies throughout the music,
absolutely.
To me, like, I took it in almost like I would listening to like a classical piece of work or something like that, like classical music, not just because it's mainly instrumental, but because of those waves of intensity and changes and stuff. But it was also rock oriented. You also have songs where you just, even on the keys, you're riffing like crazy solos on the keys and just kind of like classic rock style.
Yeah.
And so to me, it felt like that you gave little bits and pieces of yourself on the record, but it also felt like you had fun, and you weren't like, it wasn't wound up too tight, too serious. You had fun doing it.
Yeah.
You can tell it was enjoyable. And I know you're playing the keys and everything, and I was curious whether or not are you programming the drums or performing the drums? Are you playing the guitar on? There's a lot going on there. It's not just when you get into the album, technically it's an album, but when you get into the record, you by the time you get to the third song in or so, you're kind of like, all right, well, you know, Sean sounds like he's maybe classically trained on the keys or something. I mean, you're just like going off because there's tons of different influences on how you write. With each song, you can hear different kind of inputs of influence and stuff here and there. Different the way you arrange stuff, the progressions and things like that. You know, I feel like you do have a little bit of classic rock classical influence, but also classic rock influence, lots of rock. And I can tell you infused that into the record too. So my question was really, you know, aside from the keys, you know, what are you performing on this release?
Yeah, so actually what I kind of did with because this was all recorded, one second. This was all recorded pretty much on this phone. I pretty much recorded everything on this, and I just took such a tedious approach of saying like, okay, I want this to sound as realistic as possible, because I know that can all sound very robotic, but the way that I approached it was I would say like, okay, can I play this part? Does this sound, would I be able to play this on a keyboard? The one or two exceptions I think that could be for that, where I think I might struggle a little bit, were those keyboard solos that you were mentioning, particularly the Rogue and the Refraction, because when that kicks into double time, especially in Refraction, man, I can't do that. I can't do that just yet. I was working on it. I got a little bit closer to where I was able to kind of replicate it, but to get it specifically where I wanted it, I kind of used a little bit of help with the MIDI keyboards and some of the tedious velocities that you can kind of do in GarageBand iOS. But yeah, I tried to approach it from the standpoint that's like, okay, if I had to play this part on drums, if I had to play this part on a guitar, if I had to play this part on a keys, would I be able to do it? And that kind of helped me keep it grounded a little bit, in the sense of like, okay, this sounds down to earth. This sounds like what a person can do. It doesn't sound like it's just flying all over the place for no reason. And that allowed me to kind of just say like, okay, let's keep it to a realistic standpoint. But like you're saying, like there's definitely some classical influences in there. When I was writing that record, I was deep in my like Deep Purple kind of listening for like the John Lord keyboard solos, and I know he was classically trained.
Dude, amazing. Amazing player.
Phenomenal. So that's kind of where I took a little bit of that inspiration. And I remember I had to kind of hold myself back a little bit from it getting too crazy. But I remember the first song on the record that I did was Refraction. That was the first song that I wrote.
That was the first one you did? Was that one?
That was the first song I've ever fully written for that EP, for that album. And I remember
that's the last song on the record.
I listened back to it and I'm like, I want it to be like a musical fireworks kind of like a sound, like, you know, this is the end of it. So what I did was then I had that idea for that double time organ solo, where initially it kind of starts at a little bit more of a mellow thing, probably more so of what I can play on an organ part if I had to play it. But I was like, you know what? I want to take it up a notch. I want to take it above what my skill level may be. So what if I did like a double time section, almost sort of like a jazz fusion, John Lord kind of style. And I painstakingly wrote it out in MuseScore first. And then I went into the GarageBand like piano roll, and I like individually tapped every single one of those notes in there. And I edited like the velocities of it to make it sound as realistic as possible. And I remember it took a lot of time to do.
Hold on. So I think I'm getting a grasp of this now, because and this is really interesting to me, because everyone has their own approaches to how they're going to do their thing. You know what I mean? Like I do music and stuff too, but I would never have thought of that. I mean, it's all performed technically by you, but you taught yourself how to basically pre-program and then enter manually every single note in a solo, right? For example, to go beyond your own skill level in a live setting. And then for people that are watching this and don't understand exactly what Sean is saying right now, the velocities are how hard the keys are being hit, right? So it's like, you know, this by you going in there and not only putting in note by note, so you know how long one note's going to go, how long another note's going to go, what goes in the order of the notes and everything for a solo, right? You're also entering in the velocity of the notes to make it feel more natural in the track. how much time does something like that take?
Oh man, that was like 2 hours of work that I had to put into that. And the entire time that I was putting those in, I was tapping each one of these individually. I'm like, this could sound like garbage. And I'm
Yeah,
just
you don't even
wasting
know.
my time. I'm just wasting my time doing this. But
Wow.
oh man, I'm never going to forget that first time that I clicked play. I was like, well, here goes nothing. Let's see how it sounds. And
Sick.
I had to sit back and just laugh. I was like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I love this. This is perfect. One of the things that I actually, it's almost like a not like a prerequisite, but like something that I need to feel before I can say like, okay, this song should be on an album, is if I can get up and like almost sort of dance to the music as I'm writing it. Like
Right.
a lot of my music writing process is for like just grabbing my phone and then just like pacing back and forth like around the room, just like trying to feel the way the music feels. If I'm not experiencing like a joy or a happiness with it, or I'm like, it just doesn't sound like something's missing. Usually something is missing. And then I go back until I can feel that specific feeling. And then I'm like, okay, now I know that I've put everything that I have into this. Then I think we're ready to proceed. So kind of like what you're saying, like that album does have a piece of my soul in it, because it was all of like my life experiences, all of my specific memories that I've had attached to that. And I'm sure my main goal for this was like for the listener to also attach their own memories to the music, to give it their own certain meaning, not necessarily have a lyric sense dictate what to think about the song, but instead be like, okay, I feel like this kind of has this kind of mood to it. And someone else might say like, okay, no, I think this has this kind of a mood. I want it to kind of have that level of subjectiveness, that people will be able to kind of put their own meaning onto a song, kind of like, you know, here's the canvas, and here's the paint, here's the picture. Tell me what you see. I see something, but tell me what you see, on how you kind of infer all these different experiences, and see what the bigger picture is for you.
Going back to what you said just a minute ago, though, you mentioned it twice. And just for anyone that's going to be watching this, and just for myself as well, when you say you recorded it on your phone, you're walking around with your phone in your hand, do you mean that you're doing scratch tracks into your phone, or does that mean you have like GarageBand in your phone and you're doing it with like some kind of input? You're doing it that way. You actually recorded the record. The actual album that we hear is recorded on your iPhone, is what you're saying.
That is correct. Yeah, it's pretty much entirely based off like MIDI instruments provided natively by GarageBand iOS.
Unreal, man. You live in the future.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. I did have to take a lot of time to like go through because there are some plugins that you can download. I did use a few of them to kind of give it a little bit of, if I needed like some distortion, if I needed to make it sound a little cleaner in some spots, or even adjust some levels on how some of the MIDI instruments, how some of the built-in instruments may sound. But yeah, all of those instruments, besides I think the one exception that I made was the guitar on Rift. I think that one was, I used digital audio workstation, another sort of GarageBand called Soundtrap. I used a guitar based off that, and the guitar solo for Reflection was on that as well.
So here's another question real quick. So just so I can know, because you're already kind of like at a level where, I follow for sure, but there's so much intricacy going on. So I just want to be clear about one thing. I don't even know, just for my own sake.
Yeah.
The guitar work is on a guitar, right?
Actually, that's entirely on a piano roll as well. I just made sure that I would be able to play it on a guitar if I had to.
How did you make it sound like a guitar? I mean, you put distortion on it, of course, but how did you make it feel? I'm a guitar player, dude. Like, how did you do that? How did you do that to make it sound like it sounds like a guitar?
I made it a lot of like I adjusted a lot of like the treble bass kind of sides of it. I kind of used some different guitar tones, maybe some different kinds of like what you're saying initially, like the initial volumes of each note kind of made it sound a little less twangy a little bit. Right. I know I was kind of running into some of that as well. So just kind of using those things, trying to balance it in with the other parts to make it sound a little bit more flowing, making sure that nothing kind of stands out in any way, or even like adjusting the volume using different guitar tracks. Like, so if I wanted exactly. Or if I wanted like the the guitar verse to be a specific volume, but I wanted the chorus to be up a notch or something like that, I would make the guitar verse track, and then I would add another track for the guitar for the chorus and make that louder, just to have that little bit of volume variability, just enough to convince the listener that's like, okay, this is a little bit more real. It's not so robotic sounding. That was the main thing I really wanted to avoid, because I did that entirely off of my phone. And I'm like, I know there's obviously there's a very big benefit to the musicians that have, like, you know, mixing boards and actual instruments and guitars and basses and able to sing into a microphone like this. But I really wanted to try and get it as little as robotic sounding as possible. And by the end of it, I was pretty satisfied with how it sounded.
Oh, you should be. Yeah, no, you pulled it off. I mean, that's why I was asking. Like, you are, here's and I didn't know any of this. I didn't know any of those details, and that's kind of like blowing my mind a little bit, because
thank you so much.
I would have never in a million years guessed that that's how you made this record. And along with other ways, like you did everything on your phone, you took a lot of time with every little intricacy, and not only just in terms of the performances or the piano rolls, for example, and putting in the notes and the velocity, but in terms of layering elements and tracks to be able to create the most realistic sound, most natural flow, being able to, you spent so much time being a sound architect on the record, that's what you are. You're like an audio sound architect when it comes to creating that's nuts. Think about that. Like it's not even, this is not like your average way. Like you said, have you ever thought about or gotten like a little rig, or like a little iMac or like a little MacBook, or that would your whole world would just be flipped upside down, dude. Can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine if you had a little money, you got yourself like a used iMac, right? It doesn't even have to be a new one. They all come with GarageBand on it, and I love GarageBand. And you got yourself the little MIDI trigger, a little MIDI keyboard or whatever, that kind of thing. Can you imagine what you would do with that? Even just that, do it, dude. Because then if someone like yourself had a little MacBook and a little tiny $50 fucking little thing, a MIDI trigger keyboard with 20 keys on it, 24 keys on it, whatever. You had a week time to spare, forget it, dude. It would be ridiculous. Have you thought about that?
I have, absolutely. Yeah. And I need to get on that, because I do have some projects that I have written on my phone post this EP, that I've also written on GarageBand, and they turn out really nice. I'm really happy with them, but I would really like to experience getting that more in depth, like what you're saying, getting a MIDI keyboard, getting an iMac, a device that's more personally suited for music creation. I
want to bring something up that this is a question I was going to ask you, but you just threw it at me for a minute. So I'm wondering where these things are. So, this record was 2021.
Yeah.
And it's intense, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and the way that you put it together was crazy. And so I was wondering, like, where's, is there anything that you're working on? Is there anything upcoming? I was going to ask you, and you just said, oh, there's been some stuff post that record. So what happened there? Is that still in the works, or is that just like, I'm not ready to put it out yet, or what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of a little bit of both. So I've been working on those tunes in my spare time whenever I can, but I also am a part of a band now based in Chicago, called Ruby. We're a sort of like a synthy 80s to modern pop music kind of band.
Awesome.
So like drums, bass, guitar, singer, synth. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. We have some covers from anywhere from the 60s to modern day pop music. We're also writing some originals as well. We're currently working on getting into the studio at some point, maybe over the next few months, to record our first album. So like you were saying, access to real instruments with a real recording technique.
So are you playing synths? Are you playing keys in this project?
Not in this one. This one I'm actually doing drums. So I'll be doing the drums for that, playing the actual drums this time.
Right.
I'm really excited for it. It should be a lot of fun. I've been playing trumpet since second grade. I've been playing drums since sophomore year of high school, so probably around 7 years now. I've been playing synth keys since probably senior year, freshman year of college, so about 5 years there. So it's really been fun. We started a Instagram channel at Ruby_symbol music official. So we've been kind of posting updates on those. So if you're curious, we'd love to have you check out our music as well.
I definitely want to hear it. I definitely would like to hear this, especially because it's like, and so what you're saying is like, this is kind of like maybe taking up a little, some of your musical time here as being in the band. So have you guys are working on the record, but you have been playing live shows?
Yeah, we have. We actually our first one of the year is January 4th. So this upcoming Saturday in 6 days. So we're playing a show in Highwood, Illinois at the restaurant Teddy O'Brien's.
Nice.
So we're doing that, and then after that point, we got a show almost every weekend up until probably the end of March. And at that point, we're gonna decide to try and get in the studio at that point.
Do you feel like playing live shows in front of an audience or being in a live setting is something that gives you as much joy as locking yourself in the studio or in your room or in programming? What are the levels there? Is that the same kind of level of happy spot for you, happy place for you?
I would say so. Yes, actually. It's equal enjoyment, but it's like different kinds. I'm sure you can probably kind of say the same, like being out there like in public playing an instrument, especially like an instrument like drums, where it's just like, by the end of the show, like my adrenaline is through the roof. I'm just so amped up and ready to go. It feels great. It feels great to play with the guys. They're all amazing musicians. I'm so grateful to be a part of this experience with them. So it's sharing in that moment with them and sharing it with the audience who we can try and share our experience with. That's great. And then getting into like the studio, or for example, for me on my phone, it's something that's like, I get to share a part of myself that I usually don't necessarily share with people in the sense of way that it's usually shared. Kind of like what we were talking about a little bit before. I do have some projects on my phone that I've kind of released a couple on SoundCloud. Some of them I'm kind of keeping on the down low for when it's when it's time for another album to be released. I am planning on doing another one at some point. But kind of like you're saying, like the Ruby experience definitely was something that I take a lot of priority in. But whenever I get an idea that I might think like, okay, I don't know if this would be a good fit for us because of the instrumentation or the vibe of the song, I might actually put that one aside and say like, okay, I'll flesh this one out on my own time.
Maybe that's good for your solo stuff. Yeah.
And that's absolutely
cool. That's cool too, because now you've found multiple ways really to create your kind of engulf yourself in the music and the creativity. I'm always curious about stuff like that, because someone that takes so much time to intricately put together a record like this one, and obviously you have to have a pure absolute love to be able to do that, because it takes a lot of patience. People don't, we can talk about it till we turn blue in the face, but people that aren't like, I guess, musicians, I suppose, or recording musicians wouldn't, don't fully grasp the patience it takes to do something like make a record like this one, the way where you put everything intricately together, especially that in such a unique way, and just kind of like hope for the best,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And
so
even I was gonna say, even this album that I've been slowly kind of working towards over the past 2-3 years, it's been something that has taken even longer, because I'm trying to push some of the boundaries on what I can do on my music, on what I can see as like a concept album, because R's for Redemption kind of morphed into a concept album, because all the letters started with R. So I'm like, okay, cool, we can make this like a redemption arc kind of thing. We can make it into something like that. And I remember when I was first talking with I'm sure I mentioned it in the first interview that I did with you guys. I really wanted to try and like make all the songs link together in a sense. Rather, in this case, they start with the letter R. They follow a sort of arc in their own sense. This one that I'm working on now, it's something that's even more, it takes it a little bit of a step further. because I was like, okay, I have this album, this is all the songs are linked together. They all start with R, but what can I do to make it more of a experience for the listener? So what I did was I decided on an album title already because it hinges pretty much entirely around this. It's called Facade's Edge. And pretty much what it's going to be is I had to think of an album title with all letters in the musical alphabet. So any letter A through G. And I was like, okay, so then what I'm planning on, at least I hope the way this turns out, is if you look when the album is fully released, if you look down the side, the first letter of each song will spell facade and then edge. It'll be 10 songs. So it'll have that. So I was like, okay, so we got a little bit of an idea now. We have a little bit of a naming scheme. But one thing that I really wanted to try, and this has been a really kind of a cool idea that I've really liked to explore, is like, okay, the first song title is Free Fall, so it starts with an F. So I was like, okay, now that song, what if we made that song's first pitch start on an F? I was like, okay,
right, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Okay, we could do it that way. And then it's like, okay, the next song starts with A. So all right, so let's make that second song start on an A. And so like, okay, I like this. I think this could be a good idea. But what if we can make it so that the song that starts on an F, the first song, over the course of the song, it has to modulate towards ending on an A, and having to convince the listener that, hey, this is a full song. Because if any song,
so they connect note-wise,
so it connects to the next song.
So the tail end of the first track ends in an A, bringing you into the beginning of the next track tonally, key-wise.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Like that that is such an in-depth level of thought in terms of a concept. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And if anyone's going to pull it off, it's going to be you, dude. Because
thank you.
I wanted to ask you also, and this is something that, I ask, because now I know kind of like a lot of the inspiration behind R's for Redemption, which I was very curious about. And I liked your kind of freeform answer to that, which was just, being able for people to, this was your thing. You gave a piece of yourself on it, but it's not really for people to read into. It's for people to interpret how they want to. And I love and agree with that. But in terms of, for you, and again, this is something I would normally ask, but pretty much anybody that I'm doing an interview with. And a lot of people don't like this, and you kind of answered some of this a little bit. A lot of people don't like this question because it's a hard one. But since you said you played trumpet when you were young, right? That's the longest. You started with that instrument, which is funny because when I was a kid, I played trumpet too for a very short. It didn't work out for me. The wind instruments aren't really my thing.
Hey, that's all right. I totally get it.
it was just not for me. But it was still cool, because it made sound and it was loud and I liked it. That was before I picked up a guitar and I was like, oh, this makes sound and I don't have to blow into anything. And it's loud. But in terms of like your influences as someone musically, as a multi-instrumentalist who's picked up all these different instruments along the way, it all stems from someplace, which is a love for music. And my curiosity is where that began. Not just where it began, but my real question is, can you give me a top maybe 4 or 5 musical influences that really you feel like kind of changed your path a little bit? You can think about it. It doesn't have to be a keyboard players or piano players in particular. It could just be any kind of a band that you heard, like you listened to a Rush record one day and you were like, that kind of, what can you give me a couple of those, like the heavy influences that really messed you up?
Absolutely. Oh, easy. Top first one without a doubt is going to be Led Zeppelin. My dad raised me on that band. Whenever a Led Zeppelin song came on the radio, he'd do the thing where, you put your hand over the radio screen. He's like, all right, who sings this? What's the song? Then he'd tell me about the band.
Right. That's awesome, dude.
Oh, he's such a big Led Zeppelin fan and he raised me on that as well. I I remember, sitting back in high school before I go to bed, just sitting in bed with my headphones on. It might be I'm about to go to sleep or something like that, but I just put on the Led Zeppelin 1 debut album and just having like the bass of the Good Times, Bad Times, Dazed and Confused, or How Many More Times or something like that just rock my world.
Yeah. Good answer. Great first answer.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about is your dad still with us?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, good. A lot of people when they answer, they bring up their parents. They say because it was so long, they say, "Oh, my mom wasn't." Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure, but I hope you show him this interview because he's going to be so happy to hear you say that. Like, trust me. As a dad, he's going to be psyched.
Yeah.
But that's a really good answer. Okay, who else besides Zeppelin?
Oh,
Classic.
Man. Classically.
No. I mean, like, the Zeppelin answer was a classic answer.
Oh,
right there.
Yeah. No, we talked about Deep Purple. I would definitely put them at the number 2 spot. They were huge. They still are. I still listen to so many of their records.
I was right. A lot of classic rock so far.
Yeah, a lot of classic rock. There's one guy that I listen to that's more modern, Christone Kingfish Ingram. He's sort of a blues guitarist. I think he's based in I think it's Mississippi. But very that sort of like Mississippi blues kind of that kind of swinging kind of stuff. I listen to a lot of his stuff as well. One record of his I really like is 662. That was such a great album, I think it is the name of the album, but that's also a great record for me to listen to whenever I was creating Artists for Redemption. It was such a great, like, just a nice good blues kind of shuffling kind of tune. So I definitely put him at 3. Oh gosh, let's see.
Mississippi blues, gritty soul. I like.
Oh that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like anything that elicits that sort of like that emotional reaction, something that digs deep into like the personal experiences, whether it be a grooving bass line or a pounding drum rhythm or something like that, or just the lyrical content of a good blues. Oh, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I actually recently, I will say, one of my one of the artists that I've been listening to a lot recently, and it's been a pretty stark contrast from the rest of the list, is Dua Lipa. Actually, I really like the sort of like bass and disco kind of vibe that the music has.
Who's that?
Dua Lipa. She's a pop singer.
Okay.
But she has I really like the sorts of rhythms that she uses in her songs. Her album, oh gosh, I'm blanking on it. Future Nostalgia. That's was released in 2020. Yeah. She released it in 2020, and I've just been listening to it so much recently, and it's just it's been great. It's so many great bass lines, and her album that she released this year, Radical Optimism, that's also, I've really liked that album as well. But just great bass lines, and that's the things I think I've started to kind of been gravitating towards. Is I really like the bass lines and drums.
I'm gonna write that down. What's her name again?
Dua Lipa, DUA and then LIPA.
Dua Lipa. Future Nostalgia. Okay, that's cool. Sorry, I want to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go listen to
that. Absolutely. Oh, that's I love that. I love that album. It's great. And then one more. Oh man. My friend David, he really got me into this band called Black Pumas. They are I don't even know how to describe them. I think I've heard them described as like a neo soul kind of band. Actually, if I could add one more influence on that list, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh God, get it.
So they're huge for me. I list. There was a time where I was at work, and I would put in my headphones, go to work for the day. Yeah. And one of the first songs that I would always listen to is the entirety of Carnival 9, all 30 minutes of it. I loved it every single time that I would listen to it. It's just it's music reverberates everywhere around. Like I love it dearly. It's my greatest passion. It's my greatest life. So this EP, I would even say, is some of my life's greatest work as of now. And I'm hoping I can only raise the bar in future releases. And with Ruby as well, I'm hoping that we could sort of elevate that to new heights. It's all really exciting. And I'm just, every time that I get a chance to make music, I'm so grateful and I'm so happy to be able to do it.
So yeah, well, thank you super amounts for doing this, dude.
Thank you.
No, I really appreciate it. This was like very, wonderful experience. You're awesome to talk to.
Thank you so much. You as well.
You have great concepts, you have great ideas, and you just have a great kind of essence about you, and an understanding of what art creation and is really all about, and how to put pieces of yourself and your soul into it, and how to give back to the world that fed into that soul that you have now. It takes a certain kind of person to really grasp all of that and be able to put it into use. So kudos to you I'm serious, man. Like, it's killer. I mean,
thank you so much.
I think we covered a lot of great ground. I'm looking forward to the next thing. Is there anything you wanted to add before we go?
Man, I'm just grateful for opportunities like these. Thank you for having me on this. This has been such a cool experience. I know I talked about it a little bit before, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be a part of something like this. It's such a great world that we can create music in. I just every day that I wake up, I have new ideas kind of reverberating around. I'm like, okay, what can I do with that? What can I do with that? What can I do with that? It's the pinnacle of so much of my life's work and hobbies, and I just every day that I get a chance to do it, it's going to be a great day.